Hello, and welcome back to another Honkai Lore Talk stream. How are you doing, guys? We are finally at the end of the moon's origin and finality, which is part 1 of Honkai Impact 3's main story. What a journey, am I right? And what an emotional ending. So, a brief plan for today. First and foremost, we will do a small analysis on graduation trip. Not very long, because it's not much to talk about. It's more pointing out some references and some symbolism in the animated short. And after that, we will do a tier list of all the story arcs in Honkai Impact 3 Part 1. No, because my journey to get Mobius was darker and deeper. What exactly do you mean? Do you mean the gacha or something else? I feel so sad. I don't want to say goodbye. Well, it's temporarily, right? Because it was a very open-ended ending with a lot of hope for the future, and I don't think this is the last time we will see Kiana. It was heavily foreshadowed that she will be back. Right, she said 5 to 10 years, and we know that APHO happens 8 years in the future, and 8 years is right in that time period, right? So keep in mind that 5 to 10 years doesn't necessarily mean 10 years. It could be 8 years, right? It's not a precise timeline. What? Is it me or does the mic sound weird? Let me see if I can play with the settings. Okay, give me some time to see. Okay, let me know. Does it sound better now? It's kinda robotic. Yeah, I don't know. As I said, I don't really know how to use OBS yet. All good? Awesome. Look, I'm kind of a boomer when it comes to streaming and OBS. So, of course, some technical difficulties will happen until I'll get used to it. That is why I also want to stream more in the future, you know, to get a hang of things. So, guys, let me know what's your opinion on the finale. Did you enjoy it? And not only the finale, this whole arc. What's your opinion? Did you enjoy it? Were you one of those who thought that the writing went downhill and it was a mess, or somewhere in between? Do you support Project Stigma? I do. It was epic, it was confusing, but I liked it. Yeah, it was confusing. I agree. I enjoyed it. Enjoyed it very much. The farewell we needed, but too early. I mean, was it too early? After 5 years? I mean, almost 7 if you played from the beginning on the CN server. The ending ended up quickly. made me sad, but it was very good. Yeah, it was very bittersweet, if I may add. I wasn't sad or anything. I mean, the only part that really made me sad and broke me was Kevin's dream, right? But Kiana's ending wasn't really sad, at least not for me. And in the end, it was expected, because the whole point of the journey was to give this story a happy ending, right? That's what Kiana promised Himiko. So I don't think they would have gone for a sad ending. I didn't like it very much. Fair. I'm wondering who will be the MC in part 2. We have no idea. But it's fun to theorize. It will be a new character, or someone from the old cast, or who knows, maybe Kiana will come back from the moon in part 2 and she will be the MC. Again, that would be a nice curveball if Hoyoverse threw at us. Ha! You thought you will get a new MC, but it is me, Kiana. Again. Not Cele? Cele, from what we know, she will play a major role in part 1.5, which is this transition arc between part 1 and part 2. We don't know her involvement in part 2. I mean, we don't know anything about part 2. I just hope we see Adam in 1.5. I mean, it's possible. Ai-chan will be the MC in part 2. Here's the thing. Ai-chan is the MC in every part. I think we, the captains, will be the MC. I don't know. You think they will go full self-insert? I mean, they already have Adam if they want to do that, and I don't know. I would love them to keep the captain in the captain verse. But who knows? We all know male playable characters are not an option since CN players refused to add them. I mean, it's not necessarily that CN players refuse to add them. This whole male thing is so blown out of proportion. I mean, yes, sure, there are some vocal people in the CN community that are against playable males, right? But so are some people in the global community. I saw a lot of people on the global side, on Twitter, on Reddit, that are the same. They don't want to see male playable characters. It's just that the CN community is larger, right? So it looks way out of it looks blown out way out of proportion. But from what I saw, and I talked with some people that play in CN, the majority of the CN players don't mind male characters. In fact, a good portion of them want to see male characters. What if APHO3? I mean, it will come. But if APHO3 will turn out to be part 2 or not, we don't know. I don't think so. If I had to guess, I would say that maybe part 2 will be a continuation of APHO3. I don't know. They did enough to thank the captains. Part 2 will be Captain Verse. I mean, I wouldn't mind. Because if you think about it, we really didn't have a big Captain Verse event, like with the captain doing stuff, since 5.0, when it was the whole event with Cha-Cha and the Pokemon thingy. We have a couple more Captain Verse events, but they didn't really have a big plot. So it has been quite some time. I really wish they would continue it. I predict APHO 3 in the middle of part 2. I think a bit sooner, but who knows. I think Hoyo said there won't be any male characters in main story, so we have a chance now. Yeah, but I think main story refers to part 2 as well, because it's technically still the main story. This is only part 1 of the main story, so part 2 will still be the main story. Look, I hope, I also hope that one day Hoyoverse will add male characters. I don't think it will happen. And the reason is simple. I don't think that it will happen just because the game was advertised as a waifu only game, right? It's not so much that they are afraid of the backlash, because Hoyo did over the years did a lot of things that garnered backlash from the community, even on CN side. So that's not something they are afraid. But here's the thing, when you advertise a product in a way and you have people that joined and put money into your product because you advertise it as a wife only game, and you suddenly start to do something that was not advertised, it's not fair for the people. And yes, you may say that if people don't like male characters, they shouldn't pull for them, and I agree. But the problem with Honkai is that it's extremely meta dependent, right? So if those male characters are meta, you don't have a choice. So it's kinda unfair for the people that put a ton of money into the game because they had this it was advertised to them that it will be a wife only, right? And I think that's the biggest reason why they don't want to add male characters, not because of the backlash. So it's a very tricky situation for them. I really wanted Kalpas to be playable. Yeah, me too. I wanted all the Elysian Realm guys to be playable. But then again, that's why Honkai Star Rail exists, right? Although it's not the same, it's the closest thing we will get to Honkai Impact playable male characters. I actually pulled Welt in this beta for Star Rail, and he's been my main since then. It was very fun using him. I have a feeling something is wrong with Kiana, since she would have tried to prevent the Sky people coming to Earth in APHO. She would be keeping an eye on things after all. I mean, maybe. We don't really know what's the deal with Kiana in APHO. Supposedly she's still on the moon. But I think we will see more of her, especially with how APHO 2 ended. I got a theory that Kiana will be on Honkai Star Rail because the train. I think part 2 is after APHO. Yeah, I would say that's the most likely possibility. Just got here, so I'm not sure what we're talking about, but I was wondering if you'll do a full Honkai story video including all the media. First of all, welcome. We just talk a little bit before we get into analysis of Graduation Trip. That's a very, very big task, right? To talk about every media of Honkai Impact Earth, because there's so much. I want to do it, but I can't do it all right now. I try to do, as you see with my latest videos, I try to do story recaps for the latest chapters. In the future, I even plan to go back and cover the chapters before that, and after that, sure, I want to get into the manga, into visual novels, but all of this will take time. I don't know, maybe months, even years, until I will manage to cover everything. Anyways, we got Otto and Welt in Star Rail, so we can get Kevin and Kalpas too. Let's hope so. Let's hope so. Kiana is sleeping when the sky people are invading. I mean, that's on brand with her, right? I hope Honkai Star Rail is not directly connected to Honkai Impact. I mean, I'm sorry to disappoint you, but I mean, it is directly connected, but not in a way that you need one to play the other, right? We have Welt, we know that it happens in the same universe, but in different worlds. That was confirmed already. But it's not like the games are dependent on each other's. It's more so Easter eggs and fun stuff that it's there for people that play all the Hoyoverse games, but it's not required to play one to understand the other. Do you do it all alone? Yes, I do it all alone. Since when did Susanna start dancing? Her battlesuit is so random. I mean, they posted those character profiles on social media with the Elysian typewriter, and you can find her backstory there. She took dancing lessons since she was a kid, since her parents wanted her to do so. And it's not so, if you read London Holiday, the manga, it's not so much out of the left field, because it's kinda similar to her design there. So yeah. Kevin is technically the male MC. Right. Especially in this last chapter with the baseball bat. He looked literally like the Star Rail male MC. Do you think that the Eon of Finality is connected with the Hershra Finality? I think they are separate entities, in the sense that Terminus, the Eon that resides over the Path of Finality, is not the Cocoon of Finality, nor the Hershra Finality. But I do think there is a connection between them. Either the Cocoon of Finality is a creation of Terminus or some sort of emanator in some way. But overall, directly I don't think that they are the same thing. Maybe one of the story arcs in Star Rail is going back to Earth and ask Kiana for a looming danger. Well, we know that Welt wants to return, and we know that he can't, because apparently the world of Honkai Impact Earth is not on the Star Rail, so they don't know how to get there. But who knows, maybe in the future. Will you choose the male or female MC in Star Rail? I will choose the female MC. I don't know. I find her a lot more cooler than the male MC, and that said something because the male MC is also cool as heck. So yeah, I will go with the female MC. It's kinda like DC Multiverse and bigger Omniverse. I mean, in a way, yes, but it's also kind of different. And I'll let you all in a secret. This is a perk for those who are tuning into the live streams. Right now, I am working on a video about explaining the whole Hoyoverse. Like how it functions as a multiverse, or as a giant universe composed of multiple worlds, to be more accurate. And it includes everything: GGZ, Honkai Impact Earth, Genshin Impact, Honkai Star Rail, and even Tears of Timus. Now, I've been doing research for this video for a long time, and I'm still not ready to finish it, but I hope that I will finish in the next 3 or 4 months. And that's the most ambitious video I ever tried to do. So yeah, look forward to it. Like, who will be the big bad boss at the end of the story? You mean Star Rail? I started going into the DC Hall of Multiverse and it's similar concept. Yes, yes. Alright. I would say let's move on and start our discussion about the graduation trip. Give me a second to change some things. Okay. Let me prepare. Considering how we know Star Rail will be directly in the Hoyoverse and they're working on both developing that and ZZZ, do you think that they could use ZZZ to start a separate multiverse? No, I don't think. I think ZZZ will also be in the Honkai multiverse, but I think it will be much closer to Genshin in the sense that it will be more separated from Honkai. Like Genshin and Tears of Timus, where they are technically still in the same Honkai universe, but they are mostly doing their own things and have some similar thematics at most. Said incoming, time to cry. They don't like to mix games. No, they don't. They like to throw a lot of Easter eggs, but directly mix, no. And it's very obvious, even if you watch their live streams, they don't mention the other games in specific live streams. And I know that when they did the anniversary celebration and they went to film at a bunch of content creators' houses, I know that they specifically told them not to mention other Hoyoverse games. And if I remember correctly, they even asked a few to hide their Genshin merch while filming. So I don't know, it's very weird. But they don't like to mention their other games. Do you think we will see Kyusho in near far future of Honkai Impact 3rd? Oh, that's a tricky question. I don't think so, but I would really like to see Kyusho in Honkai Impact 3rd. I don't know anything about Tears of Timus lore. I thought it's just a dating game, but a few Honkai lore chasers say that they consider it the most complex. I mean, I am not very familiar since I don't play Tears of Timus. I only talk with a few people that played it and took a glance here and there at the story, and it's pretty complex from what I've seen and pretty sad. Like really, really sad. Hi, hello Nenka-chan. Hoyoverse works on VTuber rules. Like with not mentioning stuff about their other games. Okay. So, let's start the graduation trip analysis. Let's start with the beginning. This will be mostly pointing out some Easter eggs and some symbolism here and there, because anyway, there's not much to talk about. And it's very interesting to see this phone. And if you look at it, let me hide this, you see the i-chan icon here, and this is actually the official i-chan account on Bilibili. And I saw somebody translated this message, and it's something like Bon voyage Kiana, we'll see you later, or something like that. It's very interesting how they made this whole page on the phone look like It's very reminiscent of Bilibili, and if you don't know what Bilibili is, it's basically the Chinese version of YouTube, right? It's their biggest streaming and video sharing platform. Stream Elements bot running only now. What have you been doing all this time? Okay, the bot is a bit drunk. Kiana is riding the train to the cocoon, aka the moon, and am I wrong? Yes, if you remember, the cocoon told her that to complete her transformation as the Hoshura finality, she will have to basically go to the cocoon and she will end up on the moon. Oh, yeah, and before I forget, let me put on some music. Sweet talk. Let me know how the music sounds. Is it too loud? Is it too quiet? Kiana's phone is cool, not gonna lie. Yeah, it's interestingly shaped. Oh, and another thing that this here, it basically says Shenzhou Telecom. Shenzhou Telecom. And apparently they have 5G in the aggregation of humanity's dreams, right? Because that's where they are right now, until they pass through the cocoon and get to the moon. The phone just says thank you and good luck to Kiana, and the video is the graduation trip. Yeah. Hello Homolabs, how is your day going? Hello Admiral Official. Pretty good. Okay, and let's continue. And we see this shot, right? And this is very reminiscent to Reborn, because if you remember, in Reborn there is a very similar shot with this. She talks on the phone, and it's the same, almost the same movement and camera pan as we have here. And the close-up on her eyes, and we can see in the background, right? This is the original poster of the trio. And this is where Ado shows up. And again, this is very interesting because we have here the stations, right? And a lot of details are lost for us due to the language barrier, but these are essentially all the names of the animated shorts, right, symbolizing Kiana's journey. And it's interesting that as soon as we hear Ado's voice and Ado appears, the background changes to the imaginary tree, and if you look here, it says Schicksal, right when they made the transition. We see, of course, he's holding a glass of wine, and this here is basically on the screen is basically a image of Kolostan, and the text says Kolostan Honkai News. Home Labs prepared with lots of tabs. I mean, there's not so much, but there are a few, yeah. Nox Games, sup Homo, hello, welcome. Okay, there's a lot of Easter eggs, especially in this part in the train. Again, the imaginary tree in the background. Here, more Kolostan stuff. And after that we have the puppet, and again the whole background changes. Now we are inside the theater of domination. And we can see that we can see the moon halo posters here, and Kiana changes form from the Hirschroth Finality to back to the Hirschroth Flame Scion. And again, the images on the screen also change. We don't have Colosten anymore. We have the Theater of Domination. They really put a lot of details here. And the puppet talks, ha 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 ha, bet you didn't expect to see me. Again, we can see the puppets here. And she says that somebody is missing, and we see the screen glitching. And again, the background changes to the digital world because of you, and the Hirschroth corruption shows up on all the screens on the train. We can see your mouse cursor if you're trying to point some specific spots. Really? Okay, that's a bit weird. I imagine that the cursor would appear. Like I said, do I have to enable something in OBS for it to appear, or because I thought it would record everything that's on my desktop. Again, like I said, I'm new to streaming. I still don't know a lot of technical details. But anyway, I guess we'll have to manage without. But I'll try to be more clear when I talk then. So we continue with the ER, and we see the train leaving the digital world, right? And after that, Kiana also moves on. And as Otto says that their story is already done. The Hirschroth corruption disappears. There is indeed a button you can toggle on and off for cursor when you select which type of screen you want to stream. Okay, good to know. I will look into it after the stream, and I'll enable it for the next time. I don't want to mess around right now because I don't want to make things even worse. What is on the television when the Hirschroth dominance shows up? It was basically the Theater of Domination shown on the television. Yeah, there are images from the Theater of Domination and some images with the puppets. And it's very interesting here to hear Otto saying that let the people of the past remain in the past, right? Which is very, very ironic coming from him, since all he did his whole life was the opposite. He couldn't let Kellen be in the past, and he tried to do everything to bring her back. And if that's not irony, I don't know what it is. Salute to this channel for giving sense to the long-winding reading materials in the story. Well, thank you, Bob. He learned his lesson. Yeah. I mean, I think he's being a hypocrite on purpose here, because if you know Otto, you know that he's this kind of guy who likes to mess around with people. But yeah, also this is most likely meant to be a representation of Kiana's imaginations at the same time. So that's what makes it even more ironic coming from him. Okay, and after that he also disappears. We see the puppet go, and we transition back to the Hyperion Bridge, and we see the Hirschroth the Void battlesuit and the reflection of the Hirschroth the Void in the glass. And this is again a callback to chapter 25. If you remember, there's that whole scene with Kiana who sees Sirin in the mirror in a very similar position. And it's very nice to hear Dihosha of the Void saying that she did a great job. And after this, we are back in Agazora, and this is the fall from Lament of the Fallen. It's almost exactly in the same way. And again, we see the background is the same, but this time Kiana is not unconscious. This time you can see that she's very calm, and it's like she's waiting for Mei. And if you look at her face right here, when she sees Mei, she smiles because she knows that she will catch her. And they're back on the rooftop. Yeah, in chapter 9 with Himiko in the elevator, right. The fact that Luocha is basically Otto in Honkai Star Rail talks to the coffin. Yeah, that coffin is really interesting. I'm really looking forward to find out what's inside it. Who knows, maybe we'll see a white-haired Kaslana reappearing in Honkai Star Rail. Okay, and we see that the atmosphere is completely different from the time that they were in Agazora in chapter 17. And even the dialogue between them. Then they had to part ways, and this time Kiana asked, "Must we part ways even this time?" And Mei replies that no, this time they will stay together until the very end. And this is both a callback to chapter 17 and also chapter 32, if you remember their discussion on the rooftop in Kiana's mind. Which again symbolizes their journey, their growth, how Mei realize that instead of trying to restrain Kiana, it's much better to try to understand her and respect her decisions. And we have them here now, solidifying the fact that they will be together from now on. Even if technically they will not, since Kiana is on the moon. But it's more about the symbolic representation of the scene rather than depicting something that's 100% accurate. Bro prepared a lot of materials. I mean, in my opinion, this is not a lot. I would go as far as to say that I'm quite underprepared. At least when I compare to how I prepared for my Act 1 and Act 2 analysis, this is quite tame. I mean, I remember that for Act 1, to prepare for the stream, I had a 70 pages document full of notes. Just so you can see how much I tried to make sure that I will be able to cover everything properly. And even then, I don't think I managed to cover everything. Atto is considered a Hersher. Yes and no. I mean, no, but he had the authority of binding, right? Because we learn that you can have an authority without being a Hersher. A Hersher means that a Hersher core solidified inside your body, right? And that basically gives you the ability to manifest and control that authority. But there are some cases in which you can take the authority without becoming a Hersher. And we have two examples with Ado and Kevin. Ado was given the authority of binding by the will of Honkai, and Kevin hijacked through Project Chimera, hijacked the authority of finality and used it to implement Project Stigma. So yeah, it's not fully explain how it works, but you can have a Herrscher authority without being a Herrscher actually. But we know that that comes with side effects, right? Because you're not a Herrscher. Your body was not made to handle that power. And we see that with Kevin in chapter 35. We learn that basically the authority of finality is constantly killing him over and over, and he uses Garuda genes through Project Chimera to repair the damage done by the finality. And we saw even with Ado that the authority of binding was corrupting him. You saw his arms; they were like, I don't know, they look like the arms of a imaginary creature. So yeah, you can possess the authority as a human without being a Herrscher, but that comes with a price. The way I see Herrschers now, the Herrscher persona doesn't matter. Having the authority of a Herrscher is what matters. I mean, yes, because we technically didn't have a Herrscher of binding and Herrscher of Death. I mean, the Herrscher of Death is debatable depending how you choose to look at it. A lot of people consider Sirin the Herrscher of Death, and that's valid. She kinda was. But we didn't have a Herrscher of binding, that's for sure. Even Einstein mentions in chapter 26, if I remember correctly, 28, excuse me, that there is no Herrscher core for the authority of binding. It's just the power. Yamei are more than canon as in romance. The manga literally says my heart belongs to Mei. Okay, I don't get why so many people deny the fact that they are together. I mean, at this point, it's pretty obvious, but I also get that they can just outright state it, right? Because of the laws in China with this kind of stuff. So it's a very tricky situation for them because they can't express it. Only throw hints at this, especially in the latest parts of the story. Because in the beginning they had a lot more liberty with this kind of stuff, but as laws change and as censorship became a lot more harsh for them, they had to tone it down a lot. All Herrschers are part of finality, so no more to come. I mean, yes, all Herrschers are part of finality, and we know that at least for now, I don't think that we will see more Herrschers, but who knows? Because it's interesting that Mobius mentioned in chapter 31 EX that Prometheus basically became the will of the Honkai to make sure that the Herrscher cycle is repeated, and that implies that even if the samsara cycle of the finality happens again and again and again, what Mobius says in that chapter implies that the Herrschers are not necessarily the same. And it makes sense, because what are Herrschers? They are embodiment of human concepts, right? And there are basically a very large number of possible concepts. So it makes sense that the finality, as it tries to find the right embrace through all the samsaras, is trying out different concepts. I don't know, maybe the Herrscher of the Void didn't work in this samsara. Let's try another Herrscher in the next one. So it's not necessarily that. I don't think that we will not see Herrschers in the future. I think we will see in part 2 if what Kiana wants to do becomes reality and they manage to somehow live with the Honkai. It would be nice to see Herrschers, but Herrschers that are not part of the 13 Herrschers that we know now, right? New Herrschers, like new concepts. I would really like Herrschers that we have no idea about. Maybe Sela went to the moon to become the Herrscher of that because she felt jealous everyone around her had Herrscher powers. Lamao. I mean, maybe. Sele is most likely to inherit the Beast Flower. I mean, yeah, I can see that, and it was also teased in chapter 28 with Durandal, when she basically split the Beast Flower in two and gave Sele, I think she gave Sele the white flower, and she kept the black part. There weren't any alive Herschers in the previous era. How did the Cocoon created the Hersher of finality? I mean, the authority always exists, even if, because you know that all the Hersher authorities are basically the Cocoon of finality projecting its powers through different dimensions, right? It's a projection of the concepts that the Cocoon tries to use to embrace humanity. So even if there is a Hersher or not, these authorities always exist inside the Cocoon of finality, and it can basically give them to anyone it wants, like it did with Kiana in this chapter, right? Because the plan was to turn her into an artificial Hersher of finality, and they were gonna do that. But as they went on with the plan, we see that the Cocoon basically just gave it to Kiana and chose her, and she became the natural Hersher of finality, not an artificial one. And the word artificial is used very strangely here, because it implies that it's a lesser version, but it's not really a lesser version. It's more so how you get it. Like, you get it by force, it's artificial, because the Cocoon didn't choose you. If the Cocoon gave the authority to you, then it's natural. That's all that means. I wish Hoyo would link the concepts of Hershers, Archons, and Eons. Link directly, I don't think that they will, but there are sure a ton of parallels between them. And yeah, it's fun to theorize. Okay, and let's move on. We see them leaving the rooftop, going through the door, and bam, we are back in the real world. And it's very interesting to see a world ravaged by Project Stigma, because this is basically how meant to be a reflection of how reality looks like after Project Stigma has ended and they managed to restore all the spaces. And it's in ruins, right? And I don't know how many of you played APHO2. And in APHO2, in one of the dialogues that Timido has, they describe that the world needed to be rebuilt after the Great Eruption. And we know now that the Great Eruption is the cover-up name for Project Stigma. And it's very nice to see the attention to details. Like, they show us that Project Sigma really affected the world and the space. Everything is in ruins, and they try to rebuild it. We see Kiana and Mei walking. Here we see Raven, Sushang, and this is her in her Shatter Swords outfit, which is the visual novel that the Fuhua visual novel, right where she first appears. So he's playing chess with the Eons, and that's it. I mean, we don't know if the entity that Su plays chess with is technically an Eon or not, because we know that Eons cannot interact with mortals in any way, except if they are other Eons directly, in the sense that talking with them. Eons can only talk with other Eons. So for that being to be an Eon, Su must become an Eon himself, which it could be, since he always had this aura of the awakened one, right? So I'm not saying that it's impossible. But from what we know, Eons cannot interact directly with mortals. They can only throw glances at them. But they cannot communicate directly, and that's why we have the simulated universe, and that's why Herta uses it to research them, right? Because basically the simulated universe creates simulations of the Eons, which and the Trailblazer, who plays the role of Akivili, the Eon of Trailblaze, to fool the other Eons into communicating with him. Hey Homo, would you make a video of this cut version? I don't know. I don't think so, because I'm very particular about my videos, okay? And I feel like I like to edit them, I like to have a lot of more control, and doing streaming doesn't allow me a very high degree of control, and it's more so me speaking random things based on my notes. So I don't think that it makes for that interesting of a content to be worth the effort to edit all of this into a normal video. Isn't Kiana an Eon level entity now? I mean, it's very complicated to power scale between completely different entities, between two completely different games. I don't know if we approach this by a pure power scaling perspective, I don't have an answer. But I can tell you that as a being in itself, she is very different from Eons. Hershers are very different from Eons, because Eons are basically higher dimensional observers that embody the concept they represent. They cannot be anything else besides the concept. Take Nanook, for example, the Eon of destruction. It cannot be anything more than destruction. Nanook will want to destroy everything. That's his entire concept. Meanwhile, Hershers, right, they are also embodiments of human concepts, but unlike Eons, they have a physical body. They live in the same dimension as humans. They can interact with humans. Some of them are humans. And they are more than just the concept they embody. They have their own thoughts, they have their own personality. So there are differences. From a being, from a power scaling perspective, I have no clue. Because it's very hard to compare them. It's very, very hard. How many chapters do you think part 1.5 will take? I do not know. Because the only hint we have is that Dawei mentioned it in one of the developer live streams in CN, that this year we will start a new story. And I don't think if he refers to part 1.5 or part 2. Because he also said that this story will last 3 years. So it's either part 1.5 will last 3 years, and after that part 2 will start, or part 2 will also start sometime at the end of this year, and that will last 3 years, and then part 1.5 will be, I would imagine, 3 or 4 chapters. But yeah, we don't know. We do not know. Just wanted to say that I really like your content, and your recent content in particular made the game experience much more enjoyable. Well, thank you. I'm really glad to hear this, because I do all of this to help people, and when I hear that my content really makes a difference, and I see people commenting about how my videos help them understand the story better. It's very fulfilling, and I'm very grateful that I'm in a position where I can do this. So yeah, thank you. What the fuck? Chapter 35 is just part 1? I mean, yes, chapter 1 to 35 is just part 1. Is Zelda Zone 0 part of Hoyoverse? I mean, yes, most likely. It's never 100% confirmed, but we know that all their games are part of this universe they are trying to build. Because there are a lot of interviews that are lost to a lot of people about their concept of shared universe. And in the video I'm making right now explaining the entire Hoyoverse, most of the things I draw upon are actually dev interviews, because you don't see them discussing these kind of things very much in game, right? So you have to go by what the developers say, and they confirmed in a lot of interviews that their aim is for all their games to share this one universe, which they call Honkai universe, right? This is how the developers refer to it, and there are other names for it as well, but those are details. By Zafkiel, I would want to change the game name to Honkai Legacy. You mean the part 1 and have a new game for part 2? I mean, I don't think that it will happen. I don't think we will get a Honkai Impact 4, because there's no need, especially if they update the engine, right? And it will look how we saw that it will look. There's no need for them to make a new game. They can just continue it inside this. But I can totally see them at some point, after part 2 comes out and the story starts to evolve, I would like them to make part 2 the default story, right? When you start the game as a new player, you are thrown directly into part 2, and take part 1, the moon's origin, finality and ending, and put it like a legacy story, right? It's a story that it's always there, you can play it whenever you want, but you know, change the main story basically, and put part 2 as the main one, because of course it will help, because it will be newer, like it will look better, it will be much more beginner friendly. Because one problem with Honkai Impact 3 is that it has a very poor new player retention, and this is because it's an old game and the new player experience is not very polished, right? So I think that they need to address that in some way, shape or form, if they want to keep this game alive for even for 6 more years, like they said during the anniversary. Who are the people in the back? These people, I think they're just random dudes, and it's interesting to see Hoyoverse above them, and the Teresa sign above Sushang's head. Unless they wanna go the Fate route and make multiple series with all the same looking character models, we can have a 4th. I mean, who knows? Because, and it's very funny because we had a lot of Honkai 4s already, because maybe some of you don't know, but the initial name for Genshin Impact was Honkai Impact 4, right? And they changed it as development went on. And another interesting fact, the initial name for Honkai Star Rail was Honkai Impact 4 Galaxy, or Galaxia, which was trademarked right when Genshin came out. And that was also changed. So we actually, in a way, already have 2 Honkai Impact 4. And they really need to change the UI. They really need to change the UI. And I get it, because from a coding perspective, that's a hassle and a half. Especially since you know that the code upon which Honkai Impact was built was very outdated and very unpractical. So I can't imagine what spaghetti code is under there and how much they need to change in order for them to manage to pull this off. Hopefully with the new engine update, yes. It's really sad that GGZ is shut down, and even the CN server, every new patch is about ending, and it's interesting plot points. I mean, yes, in global it's a shame, but even if the servers were still up, trust me, playing GGZ on the global was not a fun experience. The translation was so bad that a lot of people just couldn't keep up with the story because the translations were so damn bad. But yeah, it's still going strong on the Chinese and the Japanese server. And even if basically GGZ now their part 2, which is Reborn, is ending. But that doesn't mean that the game is ending, because again, Dawei already confirmed that GGZ is not ending and that they will continue even after their part 2 is ending right now. So it's nice to see that they won't just shut down a game without a good reason. And as long as people keep playing their games, they will continue to support them. Oh yeah, what are your thoughts about the new engine concept? I mean, it looks good, but we saw very little with no context at all. So yeah, it looks good, but I need to see more. I need to see what is the change exactly. Do they plan to change the whole game? Do they plan to implement these changes only for the newer stories that will come out? How will it work? You know, it's very hard to form a opinion on what we saw. Besides, it looked good. What do you think would happen with the Steam players if Hoyo decide to shut down the Steam servers? I mean, I don't think they will. Because they just launched it on Steam, and I see no reason for them to shut it down. I don't know how much players are on Steam, but it's basically just a different client that you download from Steam. It's not necessarily a different server, because people on Steam play on global. So it's not another server, it's just another client that instead of downloading it from the Hoyoverse app, you go through Steam. So it's not necessarily a separate server. But I digress. Let's continue with this analysis and we'll continue the discussion after that. Okay, and here's another callback. You see this mom with the girl, right? With the little girl. Well, you would think normally that these are just two random NPCs that they thrown there, but you'd be wrong. They are not. They are a callback to... Let me see. I already forgot where it was. They are a callback. Okay, I have no idea where it was. Yes, here it is. You see them? They're a callback to Meteoric Salvation. And they're the same. Which again, attention to details. Yeah, basically everything here is intentionally put. We see Hoyotech in the upper right corner on the building, if you look at it here, and we see Fallen Rosemary on the billboard, and down here we see Stan, Durandal and Rita in their London holiday outfits, which again is very nice. Then we get the transition to the beach with Lily, Rosa, Sela and Bronya, and these are all in-game costumes, right? And it's very this is a detail I noticed. It's very sweet, because if you look here, Bronya notices Kiana and May walking off in the distance, and she looks at Sela like she's asking permission from her girlfriend to go with them. And I find it very sweet. And she's smiling like, yeah, sure, you can go. After that we transition to the Sakura Samsara, the Yae village open world, Kalen and Sakura. This again is after that we have this throwback to Second Eruption. If you remember, Sirin basically captured Siegfried and Cecilia in a dream with Feng Quan down, and basically she also was put inside the dream, and she basically lived as their adopted daughter. And they went shopping in a mall, and this is the same mall as it was in manga. And this shot here is full of references. Okay, first we have the whole AE, Welt sipping coffee, Tesla, Welt Joyce, Einstein, Schrödinger and Emma Planck. And a lot of billboards, right? And let's start from left to right. We have above Bronya, we basically is, I think this is meant to be Kevin. After that we have Eden, we have Fallen Rosemary, and a lot of different brands, Swarovski and other different brands. We have Louis right after Fallen Rosemary, which is, if you read Second Eruption, you'll know who it is. She's actually Carol's mother. And after that we have Durindana, which is basically a Eldering version of of Durandal. And of course, above Welt's head, we have Alicia. So a lot of references in this shot. Fallen Rosemary is absolutely everywhere. Yes, she is. And after that, okay, this is another very interesting scene. So we have the golden courtyard. Homolapse during Dana was Hector's weapon. Okay, that's nice to know. Okay, so we have the golden courtyard, right? And we have the flame chasers, except for Kevin and Fuhua. Fuhua because she's alive, and Kevin because she will appear a bit later. But what's very interesting is that first, you see Brona and Kiana looking at the map, but if you look at May is looking at them, which is again a nice throwback, because she was the one who went through Elysian Realm, right? And she inherited their signets and was and their will. She was the one who knew them. But if you look at the flame chasers, you see that everyone is minding their own business. They are basically returning home after a long day. But if you look at Grisio, she's the only one who notices Kiana, May and Bronya and looks back at them. And why is this interesting? Because if you know, we don't really know what happened with Grisio. Her fate is still unknown. She's not confirmed dead. We know that she went with Project Ark in space, and basically they lost Kevin and the other pioneers, they lost contact with the spaceship about I think it was about 2,500 years ago. And since then, nobody knows anything about Grisio. It's very interesting that she looks back at them. She basically acknowledges their presence. And I wonder if this is not meant to be a small hint, a small foreshadowing for the future, that we will see her again. At least I hope so. Yeah, she's definitely alive. And there's also the whole thing with the Sky People, right? Because her paintings in Elysian Realm look like the Sky People, and there's the entire debate of it is reused assets or not, and we don't really know. Because again, it's very hard to fit this part in the lore, because in APHO we know that basically the mechanical monsters are an attempt from the Sky People to imitate humans, but that would contradict with the fact that they were created by Grisio. So we don't know, but it's interesting, and I'm sure that we'll see more about Grisio. I don't think this is the last we will see of her. And who knows, maybe we'll get grown up Grisio in the future. In part 2. Maybe we will see her in Star Rail. I mean, maybe. Could be Star Rail. I'm more so inclined to think that it will be part 2 of Honkai Impact 3rd. But who knows? What if Sky People learned about Earth through the art? I mean, that's again, we have very little information to work with. Because we know that they didn't really know about Earth that much, since Void Archives was basically teaching Lucani how to the human language, right? So that shows that they didn't really have much information prior. So, but I don't know. Like I said, we have very little information. So all we can do is speculate. Aren't Sky People just after Honkai Energy? Yes, from what we know, they are after Honkai Energy. Okay, after that we have a shot with Kianame and Bronya after a day at high school, and we have in the background Kevin and Dr. May. And after that we are back at the train station. This is basically symbolizing their graduation, right? And Teresa is taking their graduation photo. Fuhua stops by, and slowly we see the train coming and stopping in a train station. The doors opened up, and if you look, this is another interesting shot. Because on the list above Kiana's head, we have two different, routes. And one is, if you see Reborn, the one above is with every animated short. And the one below is basically with every place in the game, starting with Saint Freya, and I think it ends with the moon. I don't know exactly. There was someone on Twitter who translated this, and I just took a glimpse. But yeah, I know that one is with all the animations and one is with all the places. It's interesting to see, because the purple line here, you can see that it's named line K423, and the bluish line is basically named line Honkai HK 3rd, which is basically Honkai Impact 3rd, which symbolizes basically one is Kiana's journey and one is the game's journey. It said stay safe on the door, right? Since APHO is 8 years after Honkai, will Kiana come back to Earth 2 years after that? I mean, she can come back even even sooner, because 5 to 10 years doesn't necessarily mean 10 years. It can mean anything between 5 and 10, even 8. So yeah, I think we will see Kiana I definitely think we will see Kiana in part 3, in APHO 3. Okay, and after this we see Kiana slowly backing off, leaving them behind, because she realized that she cannot be with them. After that it's a very solemn moment, and again a throwback at Reborn with the 9 Moonbeam battlesuit, which is the same battlesuit that she had when she transitioned through the train during that animation. Let me find it. Yeah. No, it's here. This is basically the same train, the same type of train, and she transforms in this battlesuit while transitioning through it. And now we see it again here. Okay, and something that I also noticed that was very interesting. Look, here if you notice on above her hip, there's a text with, "They've never been allowed to love in this cursed cage. It's only the fairy tale." Which again is very interesting, and from what I managed to find out, these are the lyrics. These are the lyrics from a song. The visual storytelling of Radiation Trip is chef's kiss. Yes, there are a ton of details. Oh boy. And we are about to see the moment that broke a lot of people. She advances through the train and we hear Himiko's voice, and as she turns around we see them back at Saint Freya with Fuhua, Teresa, Himiko, Bronya and Mei. Basically give courage to Kiana, right? After seeing that, she gets the courage to move forward and complete her task. And the train continues to go through the dreams toward the cocoon of finality. Again, the cocoon told her that she must pass through it and get to the moon to complete her transformation as the Herrscher of Finality. Hello Neko. And again, the music. Why? I mean, I really love the song. My only problem with this song is that it's too short. It's too short. It's only 2 minutes. I would have loved to see a longer version of this. And okay, we saw Kiana going to the cocoon with a smile on her face. And another interesting thing about this is what happens after she goes through the cocoon, because I saw this part is again very symbolic, and I saw multiple interpretations of this on the internet, and I think all of them are valid. We see a snowy plain. If you think about what could this snowy plain symbolize, it could be just random snowy plain, but it's most likely a reference to Siberia, which is the place where Kiana started her journey and where she lived with Siegfried for a couple of years, and where she got her name. And we see a small Kiana struggling to walk and falling down, after which grown-up Kiana comes and helps her get up and encourages her to continue her journey. And she picks up her bag and continues to march on. And what is interesting after this is that we see her going towards the earth, which is basically it symbolizes the beginning of her journey, right? Because Kiana's journey started on Earth. So this little Kiana is basically herself at the end of the journey, and she encourages her to continue to move on, to go towards Earth and start her journey. And meanwhile, the grown-up Kiana goes in the opposite direction, and she goes towards the moon, symbolizing that she just completed her journey, and now she must go to the moon to protect this beautiful world that she lived in. And it's very interesting because one kind of symbolizes the hope and endless possibilities for the future, and the other symbolizes love, right? Love and all the warmth and the beauty of the world, with Kiana going to the moon, protecting her. Another interpretation I saw from some people is that the small Kiana represents the player, and this is a bit more depressing. Basically, the small Kiana represents the player, and Kiana basically encourages us to continue our journey without her. We as the players continue our journey in Honkai Impact Earth. We march towards the Earth. We continue the journey with part 2, and she basically picks us up and encourages us to continue our journey without her, and she goes to the moon. And this is the more depressing interpretation. But I think both are very valid. Both are very valid. What? Small Kiana represents the player? That's weird. I mean, I don't think there are. I think you can see this sequence of events in multiple ways if you want. But yeah, I saw some people that saw the small Kiana as the player. No, this is sad. Yeah, I know. That was also my reaction after seeing this. It's fine, we still have a Kiana on Earth. Yeah, the original one. But again, I don't think that our goodbye with Kiana will be permanent. And I think we will be reunited with her even sooner than most people expect. And after that, let me find this, yes. And we see the continuation of the chapter. We see Elf Kiana, which is basically the representation of the small Kiana from the animated short. Okay, I'm sorry for that. Who is walking towards a light in the space, and we hear Kiana in the background talking about the story, how this story is meant to be a story about love, and no matter the hardships and the obstacles that our main character has endured, no matter how naive she was in the beginning and how much she had to suffer and go through to grow up, all of these were possible because of love and because of all the goodness that presented before her and guided her and allowed her to fight for all that's beautiful in the world. After that, we are back on the moon, and we see messages from Kiana, from May and Bronya. We see that Dr. Tesla constructed a new Earth-Moon comm tower to make communication between them easier. And she says that her test to find a way to convert Honkai energy into a normal energy source for humanity that people can use will shortly begin. And everything ends with the classic pose, like she did the thing. I don't know, it would have been very nice if they replaced the icon for the game with this, even if not permanently, at least for this version. This is the classical pose that we see in the icon of Honkai Impact 3rd. Do you think the new Atra is still there? Yes. I mean, if you remember when she said goodbye to Siegfried, Siegfried mentioned the new Atra and how it has, basically, you can breathe because it has artificial air. So visiting Kiana will be much easier for them because it doesn't require them having a spacesuit. And this is it. This is the analysis for Act 3, if you want, for part 35. Chapter 35. Imagine part 35. I don't know, in 50 years, our grandchildren. I would want it to be forever, to be honest. Yeah, me too. But I kind of understand why they want to change it. It would alienate a lot of people because the majority are already used to it. My grandchildren will continue my journey. Yeah, again that lasts through different generations. Imagine your grandfather starting the account and it has been passed down through countless generations in your family, and your duty is to play the game and pass it down to your children at some point. I need a new story to immerse myself in. I mean, part 1.5. Next patch we have chapter 36. With Sel and Susanna. Okay. But before we start to talk more about the lore, I prepared a tier list with every Honkai Impact 3rd story arc until this moment, which is basically the entirety of part 1. And this is how I do tier lists, right? I know that people like to have a ton of columns. I usually work with 4. I have best, which basically are the ones that really left an impression of me and I like them very much, which I consider the best. I have good, which are story arcs that I consider that are really solid, really good, but not necessarily the best for me. We have average, which are story arcs that are okay. They are not necessarily bad, but they are not anything special, right? They're meh, they're average. And we have meh, which are bad, kinda. Let me change it. Bad, it's a better word because meh, it sounds more like average, right? When you say meh, you don't necessarily say that it's bad. It's just it's nothing special. And even so, I don't think that in Honkai any are necessarily bad, but some of them suffer from the early phases of the game when they put a lot less attention to details in the story. Can you do a manga one? Yeah, maybe one day, but let me move the chat so that it won't be in the way. I think here is better to not obstruct the tier list. I want to do the meme with the reaction to things, where there is a gif of a guy saying, I mean, it's alright, that's why he's the GOAT, and Homelander saying it was perfect. Let's start from the bottom, home. I mean, I want to do this in order, right? Not necessarily from the bottom. So, let's start with the first one. This is basically chapters 1 and 2. And to give them credit, I don't think they are as bad as people think they are. I mean, they were bad before, but after they reworked them, they are a lot better. And for who doesn't know, actually the first 2 chapters got reworked 2 times. First in 2.6 with Reborn, when they basically changed almost the entirety of the first 2 chapters, and the second time was in 5.8 when they basically changed Saint Frey in chapter 2, shortened the chapters. They took out a lot of the fluff missions that weren't relevant, and basically made the experience better. Now, you can definitely tell that they didn't really put much attention into details at the beginning of the story, but replaying them really lets you see that they had some ideas pretty early on that are reflected in the game after that. A lot of foreshadowing for the second eruption, for the Hush of the Void, for Fuhua being old as heck. You can, if you pay attention in chapter 2, you can kinda realize that. And overall, I wouldn't call them bad. I would call them extremely average. But I also think they are a bit lower than the others on the list. So I will put the first 2 chapters here. But I want to point out that I don't think that they're as bad as people make them out to be. For starting chapters, they were kinda okay, but yeah, the initial ones were not that good. But they did that to make players to be familiar with the combat. Yeah, and also you have to realize that for them making the game at that time, it was a very challenging process. And they were literally a small indie company back then. And this was something way over what they could have achieved at that time. So their main focus wasn't to make the story, it was to make the game playable. The simple fact that they could deliver a game that people can play and doesn't crash or doesn't explode the phones of the players was enough. That was their goal in the beginning. They didn't aim to create a compelling story, and you can find this in the documentary that they are releasing today about their creative process and thought process over the years. But how did they change it in Reborn? Oh, there was a lot of changes. I don't know if you can find it on YouTube, but I would imagine if you type it, if you search on YouTube, you can find the initial early chapters, and they were a lot more linear, a lot more simple than what we have now, and a lot worse. Okay, after that we have chapters 3 to 6, and this is very strange, because this arc is composed of 4 chapters inside the game basically, and I think that chapters 3 and 4 are the worst chapters in the entire game, but I think that 5 and 6 are good. So they are basically balanced themselves out, because initially when the game released, 4 chapters were out, 1, 2, 3 and 4, and they reworked only chapter 1 and 2. That's why they feel better, and that's why chapter 3 and 4 feel so much outdated than the rest, because they are exactly how they were when the game released. I mean, they cut out some of the extra missions that didn't offer any story, but overall the experience is the same as it was when the game released, and that's why they are very bad. The potential, I'll never forgive them for what they did to Wendy. The potential of that character was so high, and they chose to off-screen her in the worst possible manner, and the whole pacing for both chapters was horrible. Yeah, chapter 3 and 4 overall very bad chapters, but I liked chapters 5 and 6. I think this is where a lot of people say that the story picks up with chapter 7, right, with the Jigsaw Jigsaw stuff. I disagree. I think that the story picks up with chapter 5. So I consider 5 and 6 good, 3 and 4 bad, so they are average between the two. They vented Wendy. Yeah, rip Wendy. I mean, this game was a game changer from mobile genre at that time. Yeah, and this is something that a lot of people don't realize just because it's such an old game. But in 2016, to come up with a game like Honkai Impact 3, it was something almost unheard of. It almost impacted the mobile gaming world and genre as much as Genshin did in 2020. Okay, moving on. We have Jigsaw. We have chapter 7, 8, 9, and this also includes, for some reason, I don't know why they chose, but in the game, I'm going after how they are structuring the game. This also includes chapters 9EX and 9EX2. And yeah, this is when we get our first cinematics. This is when the game really picks up, you really start feeling the stakes. And this is the chapter where for a lot of people, basically the tutorial is over, right? You become a fully fledged captain after you witness Himiko's demise and get a taste for the despair and the abyss that is Honkai Impact 3. And overall, I think this was a very, very good story arc. It wasn't the best, even if maybe for some people it was, but for me it wasn't. But it was good. Yeah, this is the Welcome to Honkai chapter. I always love to see newer players after they go through this and they are traumatized, right? Some of them are crying, and after that, all the captains in the chat, welcome to Honkai Impactor, welcome to Honkai Impactor. Then you hear a lot of donations, lot of subscribers. It's always fun to watch. Next one is the Sea of Quanta arc. Here we have chapters 10, 11, 11EX, and 12. Now, what gives this chapter for me to be to put it in best is the fact that this is the first big chapter in Honkai Impact 3 that I mean, this is the first big story arc in Honkai Impact 3 where I think that you really need context from the manga to make the experience more enjoyable. And I'm not trying to say that you need to read the manga to play this, no. But this is one of the first instances when the manga truly elevates the chapter. And what do I mean by that? I mean that reading Azure Waters is very important for this chapter because it establishes the background of Bronya and Selene. And this is the story arc where their reunion happens, and it's very sudden, right? If you haven't read the manga, seeing Sele there out of the blue, you're like, what? Who's this? How did she appear here? And it doesn't hit the same, right? And even Kokolia as a character and her actions, they don't hit the same. So while I don't think that the manga is necessary for this arc, I think this is the first of the many arcs that suffer from, yeah, it's good, but if you read the manga, which is an external material source, it's better. So in my opinion, judging strictly by a story arc in the game, this is a minus for me, and this is what keeps this arc in the good category and not the best. Now, if I have to choose between these two, I think that this may be a hot take, but I would put the Sea of Quanta arc above above the Shixel rescue arc. Yeah, the manga complements the story experience. I mean, you don't have to read it. You really don't. But I won't try to say that it doesn't impact the experience, because I think that this arc, without reading the manga, is a solid 7. But if you read the manga, it elevates the arc to an 8, maybe a 9. But they do recommend you to read some manga for each chapter, so it's a nice touch. When I started playing, it helped me a lot to love the story more. Yeah, they do it now. But in the beginning, they made this change in 5.8, if I remember. But before that, they didn't really mention the manga at all in the game. So you had to be lucky enough for someone, or to read somewhere, or for someone to tell you that, hey, there are some mangas that you should check out for things to make a lot more sense. So yeah, it's very good that they added this. There's now a documentary on the Honkai Special channel. I know that they plan to release it today. I didn't know that it is now. In the lore perspective, I agree the Sea of Kanto arc is better. And very interestingly, this is also the arc where most of the people lose interest that I watch playing, lose interest in the game. And you would think that the majority lose interest in the first chapters, right? In chapters 1 through 4. No, this is the chapter after final lesson. This is where the majority of people start to lose interest, because it tackles a lot of. This is where Honkai starts to get a bit into quantum physics, into pseudoscience, and for a lot of people, that's something that bothers them when playing a game. They don't want to deal with that. They don't want to beat their heads around complex concepts. Yeah, science mambo jumbo. This is where it starts. Okay, next is our chapters 13 and 14. Honestly, I know that a lot of people love this arc. I think it's okay, but I would lie if I say that it's one of my favorites. I think this is one of my least favorite arcs in Honkai Impact 3rd. Not to say that it's bad. I think it's okay. But I don't think it's nothing special. It's very, very linear. Yeah, it's nice to see Kiana growing up, and we get to learn more about World Serpent. But it's a very average. It's a solid arc, but nothing special. So I will put it in average. Now in an age where it's okay is a hot take, lol. I mean, you never know. You have to be very careful nowadays what you say, especially when it comes to personal opinions, because I noticed that a lot of people get offended over personal opinions. I don't know, something about Kevin. Every time he appeared in the story, it's always so interesting to pass. I mean, I low-key, not so much as the Sea of Kanto arc, but I also think that this arc is better if you read the manga, especially the London Holiday, the Second Divine Key, and the Divine Key series manga. I think that also this is one of those chapters where reading the external material will elevate the experience, not so much as with the previous arc, but yeah. Okay, we have chapters 15, 16 and 17. And honestly, I will say it, this is my favorite arc in, I think, the whole game up until this point. I think this arc did everything right. I think the pacing was incredible. All the actions, all taken by the characters, all the turns of events, everything felt natural, everything felt very emotional. We had a lot of character growth. We expanded upon the world building. We found out more about the Honkai with Aro. We learned more about the imaginary tree, the imaginary space, and the Sea of Quanta, and everything came together almost perfectly. I don't think there's a perfect story arc in no game, in no media, but for me, in Honkai Impactor, this was as close as you can get to perfection when it comes to story. Yeah, I think they did everything right. Okay, and moving on, we have... oh boy. We have the Herrscher of Ice, chapters 18 and 19. And this is the quote-unquote the filler arc of the Honkai Impactor. And I get why people say that, but I also don't think that this arc is as bad as people think. I think this arc suffered from two things. One is pacing. I think if we would had one more chapter in this arc to further establish Aos and Anna's character, it would have been perfect. And also it felt very disconnected, right? Because it came after it was put between two very big arcs. It was Mei arcs with Kiana and becoming the Herrscher and Thunder, and after that it was Fuhua's arc, and there was these two very big arcs with a lot of character development for very important characters in the series, and this felt more like a transitioning arc. But I don't think that is a bad arc. And it's one of the few arcs in this entire game that doesn't require you to read any manga to get the full experience, right? Because this is the only place where these characters appear, and this is their whole story contained in these two chapters. And I think that the writing was okay, it was good. Like I said, it was unfortunate to be squished in between two major arcs, and I think that the pacing suffered a bit because it was only 2 chapters instead of the traditional 3 chapters that we have. But overall I would put it in good. Not above Sea of Quanta and Shixal, but I would put it in good. I enjoyed it more than Arc City. It's not that bad, it just doesn't really introduce anything new to the story at that point. I mean, from a lore perspective, it introduces 2 new Herrschers, right? Which is a big deal if you think about it. The problem is that these 2 new Herrschers are 2 new characters, right? Who we did not know prior to this, and we had no attachment for. And that's why it felt so discontinued. I also pity Aulena didn't have enough time for development. They had potential though, yeah, I agree. Like I said, 1 more chapter could have fixed this arc and made it a lot better. But again, we have Fuhua arc, oh boy. Now I really enjoyed this arc, and I think Senti as a character is a genius character. It's an awesome character. I would go as far as to say that Senti is one of the best characters in Honkai Impactor. You can fight me, but I'll be blunt. I really like Senti. My problem with this arc is that it's a bit hard to follow, especially chapter 20, because it relies on external material again, which is the Shadow Sword visual novel. But the problem is that unlike the previous chapters and story arcs that relied on external materials, We have a visual novel that is not officially translated in English, and not only that, we have a visual novel that is incomplete, because to this day the Shattered Swords visual novel is not done, it's not complete, not even in China. So a big chunk of the story is missing. And this is more so for chapter 20, when they present Fu Hua's life. And I can see that that can be a lot, that can cause a lot of confusion for players that are not familiar with it. And again, it's a much better experience if you know the events of the visual novel. And for that reason, I won't put it in best, even though I liked Senti, she's one of my favorite characters. But I will put it on top of the good. The Fu Hua visual novel will never be finished. Yeah, I agree. I also don't think that they will finish it. Unfortunately, I also don't think that they will finish it. Okay, moving on. Oh boy, chapters 23, 24 and 25, which is arguably the story arc that I would say the most of the players would consider the best story arc in Honkai Impact. And I can see why, with the culmination of chapter 25 and everything that happened with Himeko, with Kiana's journey, reaching this point. Unfortunately for me, I don't think it's above Nagazora, because I think that although very, very good, this arc suffers from pacing issues, especially in chapter 23, because it basically starts with Sele, the whole chapter focuses on Sele and her story, and then suddenly in chapter 24 we move from Sele to Kiana, and the pacing in chapter 24 is a bit all over the place. We have May and Raven, then we have Kiana and the rest of AE and how they try to combat the puppets. Then there's a big time skip of a couple of weeks. Like it's a bit all over the place. Nonetheless, it's a very good. I agree that it's one of the best story arcs in the game. But because it had small pacing issues, I will put it second after Nagazora. But overall, very, very good. Very, very good story arc. And oh boy, we have Colostan. Now, I would say that this is the part in the story where they really went ham with the science stuff, right? It's the part where people basically just gave up and said, you know what, I'm done trying to understand everything. I'll just go with the flow and enjoy what I understand. And this is the reaction I get from a lot of people I talk with. Like, I just want to see what this man does. I want to witness Ada's journey. I gave up. I don't understand anything. I let them talk their science mambo jumbo. If I understand it, cool. If not, moving on. And yeah, it's a hit or miss arc. If you try to understand it and you put in the effort to go into it and understand what they are saying, there's a lot of world building. That's a lot of important information here that really helps you understand Ado's thought process and how he does these things. But I also think that Ado is such a good character, but that you, even if you don't understand what he's actually doing, you can still appreciate him and appreciate and enjoy this story arc without knowing exactly what he does. And again, this is another story arc that suffers from a lot of... The external material will make it better, right? Because this is where they really stop giving a damn about the visual novels, if the people have read them or not. Because in my opinion, chapter 25 EX, which is part of this arc, is a complete mess. If you haven't read Durandal's visual novel, you will not understand almost anything. And again, the visual novel helps for the rest of the arc. It has a ton of reference to the Anti-Entropy visual novel with Rihanna and Durandal, and of course the Elan Palatinus manga, to understand Aro's backstory, Shixel in the early days, his story with Callan. So again, a lot of external materials that will make the story better for you. But overall, I think it's a solid arc. I think Aro is such a good character that it basically carries this arc by himself, and you can really have a good time and enjoy the story and appreciate it without understanding anything and without understanding everything and without reading the external materials just because of Aro. And for that, I will put it here. I really liked it. Then again, I'm one of the people who goes out of his way to understand everything. So yeah, I would imagine that I have maybe a deeper understanding and appreciation for this arc than a normal player would have. Colostan was great, but to me it's understandable that some people were put off by the science and the lore info dump. Yeah. And to this day, the Durandal visual novel is on my to-do list. I mean, you'll get there someday. But be prepared, because the Durandal visual novel, it's a long one. And trust me, it's... you will need a lot of patience. And again, it's a lot of science. If you like the latest story arc, you will like the Durandal visual novel. But if you hated this latest story arc, oh boy, you will hate the Durandal visual novel. Okay, and now we have the Elysian Realm. Now, this is chapters 29, 30 and 31. I'm excluding the first part, which is in ER, because that's an entire different game mode. And this arc, I think, at least when it comes to pacing, it's the closest we have to Nagazora, in the sense that it presented a cohesive story in the open world that had a very clearly defined beginning and end, and a message. Now, the problem is that it relies on Elysian Realm to make sense of it. And not only that, Elysian Realm is a mess to navigate, because even if you finish the main story, you still have remembrance vessels, you still have to read files. And I think that to truly appreciate this story arc, you need everything from there to read and experience. So again, it has the problems that it relies on an entire different game mode to appreciate it. But I think that the story was very solid, and I think that the Elysian Realm cast is a very, very solid cast of characters. I would say that in some ways they are even better realized and better presented to us than the main cast in some aspects, because you can clearly see that by this time Hoyo really perfected their way of storytelling when it comes to how they present characters and how they tell their stories and how they construct them and how they make the players feel for them. So because of that, I will put this here. No, this is good. This is good. And finally, how to understand the Elysian Realm. Watch Homo Labs. I mean, you're not wrong. You're not wrong. But I don't think that even if you watch all my videos about the Elysian Realm, I don't think you will understand everything, because again, as I said, my videos are meant more so as one, supplementary material to refresh your memory and to pick up on some things that you might have missed while playing the story, or if you really don't want to bother with it and you want a very basic and surface level understanding. But yes, the first Tomolas video I watch is about the Herrscher of Human, and I binge a ton of your lore videos after that. Yeah, that video really took off. That the power of Alicia is real, guys. It's real. That character is really, I don't know. That character did something to the community. Everybody was enthralled by her, and a lot of people that don't even play Honkai know about her and love her. She's really truly that one character that went beyond the game. And you can see, because I did a lot of character-centric videos. I did videos about Ado, I did about Aponia, I did about Vilvi, and they all performed average, nothing special. And I expected the same for Elysia, but the moment I did a video on Elysia, it just blew up. Because that's how popular she is. I watch Homo Lab so that I can confirm my understanding about the lore. Yeah, I would imagine most people are watching my videos for the same reason. Because I think that everybody that plays the game has a vague understanding of what's happening, even if they don't understand everything, right? But it's nice to have to see someone else's interpretation and what they picked up from the story and compare it to what you picked up from the story and see if they coincide. Funny thing is that I started playing Honkai because I saw Herrscher of Human Battlesuit and I liked it so much, so I decided to try the game. Yeah, there's a lot of people that joined during the Elysia Herrscher Battlesuit. Really is. Okay, but let's not waste any more time. Let's go to the latest story arc. And oh boy, this is maybe the most controversial story arc in Honkai Impact 3rd. Because I never saw the community divided. It was always, don't get me wrong, whenever a new chapter came out, the community always had people who liked it or people who didn't like it. But this time it was on such a big magnitude, and I think that this is because this was the finale, right? And everybody had expectations built upon years worth of expectations for this chapter, and everybody imagined that this will go down in some way, shape or form. And for many people, the story arc took a direction that they did not expect. And I think that big contradiction with their prior expectation caused them to dislike the story arc. Homo Labs, the problem is that people that don't understand the story keep spreading false information. Now I see people said that Sele is the Herrscher of Death. I mean, that's inevitable. When you have a story as complicated and as rich and convoluted as Honkai Impact 3rd, a lot of people will misinterpret and spread false information. It's not something that you can do something about it. And I see it all the time when I watch other streamers, right? And a big portion of people that play the Honkai story are not that invested in the game and the story to understand everything. And a lot of times they rely on their chat to tell them things, right? And I often have moments when I lurk in someone's stream and I see people in chat giving small wrong information, and I'm like, oh boy. And the streamer is like, oh, thank you, now it's clear to me. And I'm like, no, it's not like that, but you know, leave it like this, it's fine. But a lot of the time, it's not that people try to spread false information. When people say something, they think that they are right, you know, and that's the irony, because it's not that they do it maliciously, like, oh, I want to troll this person and I want to spread misinformation. They really think that what they say is right. So yeah. I hate the community who are stuck in the Flame Scion arc saying that anything after it's not good when it's just not correct. Yeah, no, I think that, in my opinion, all the story arcs after Flame Scion are extremely good. Elysian Realm, Colostan, even this latest story arc, I think they're very, very good. But I also see why some people were disappointed with it. I can understand why, but I think this latest story arc was very, very good. I mean, I also have some issues with it, especially chapters 32 and 33. With I think they could have presented some of the concepts in a more digestible manner, because Honkai Impact was always complicated. It always dabbled in quantum physics, in pseudoscience. It was always like this, but I think that they overdid it a bit in chapter 33 especially, because my biggest problem was that they tried to explain the same thing using different analogies, and they did this because they were, I think, from a writer perspective, they did this because they weren't sure that the players will get it the first time, so they keep throwing analogies about the same concept, hoping that one of them will stick the landing and will help the players understand. And this wouldn't be so bad, but another part that made this made matter worse is the localization for the English version of the game, because I talked with some people that play in Chinese, right, and their understanding of the concepts and how the story works was much clearer than ours on the global side, because the localization a lot of times does more bad than good and messes up the terms and makes it look even more complicated than it already is. So yeah, that would be my biggest gripe with the story. But I really enjoyed chapters 35 and 34. I think that the pacing was much better in those chapters, and I think that all the science stuff, which was a lot more easier to understand and much better presented. Overall, yeah, I think it was a good ending. I really don't know, I'm conflicted where to put this arc for me. But if I have to choose, it would be, it's either the best in the good or the last in best. I don't really know, but for the moment I think I will leave it like this. And again, this is not an objective interpretation of the quality of the story. These are strictly my opinions and how I enjoyed the story arcs in Honkai Impact 3rd. If your opinions differ from mine, that's okay. You can make your own tier list anytime. This is just how I enjoyed the story arcs of the game thus far. I had one friend who only understood the surface of the story and said that the story is easy to understand, nothing complicated, and he said the story is boring and he hated Honkai. But he will play Star Rail because he thinks Star Rail is not connected with Honkai Impact. I feel so tired talking with someone who doesn't understand, so I'd be like, sure. I mean, when it's that the case, there's nothing you can do. Rather than argue with people that already made up their minds and formed their an opinion, it's better to just leave it like that, because it won't do you any good. If somebody is set on not liking the game or hating the game, just let them go, because it will do you more you will do yourself more bad than good by continuing to talk with them about that stuff. And no, the stories are very different from people to people, and each of us interpret stories differently, and each of us want to experience story differently. For some people, I know a lot of people that are interested in the lore of Honkai Impact there, but they cannot get into it because of the visual novel style of storytelling. They just cannot get into it because for them it's very much like reading a book, and they don't like that. On the contrary, I have friends that are very much into the visual novel storytelling type of games, but they just didn't vibe with the game itself, with the characters, because I think that Honkai is a game that relies a lot on the characters, and if you manage to empathize with them, then the story will be a lot more enjoyable, because at the end of the day the story is about the characters. That's, in my opinion, that's the main attraction of Honkai storytelling. It's their journey. It's about how they develop, how they change, how they grow, how they mature, and how they manage to overcome the obstacles that are thrown in their way. So of course, if you cannot empathize with them, if you don't like them, the story will feel lifeless, because that's the bread and butter. Homo, do you plan to make a Discord server of sort? Don't know what there could be in it, but just wondering. I've been asked this a lot. I might do. I never wanted to make a Discord server because that is a responsibility that I don't really want to take upon myself, because I don't have time to manage a Discord server. So I don't know. Maybe I will in the future if I find somebody in the community willing to I don't know, to take care of stuff, to make the Discord and administrate it, because I don't really have time for it, because I have a job. I have to make videos. I have to try to live my life, you know, and it's not. I don't have that much free time to manage a Discord server, and when I have free time, I usually try to put it into researching, into making videos, because that's what's more important for me. I've seen a lot of people mad with the ending because there wasn't any sacrifice, but since the Husher of Sentience art, Kiana explicitly says that she doesn't want an ending that requires anyone to die, so it was to be expected. Yeah, I agree, it was expected, because the whole point of Himeko dying and lighting the path ahead for Kiana was for her to reach a happy ending. You see this since chapter 11 EX. I think that's the moment when this kind of narrative is fully established. Like Kiana go and give this sad story a happy ending, and this is a theme that was recurring throughout the series. So yeah, it was foreshadowed that it will be kind of a happy ending. And it makes sense, because this was Kiana's goal, right? Homolabs, do you think of collabing with some Honkai creators like Island MG to talk about Honkai lore, story and stuff? I mean, I would like to, but the thing with collabs is that they are very, very hard to do, because you need to have an idea. You can't just go to another content creator and say, hey, let's collab. I don't know how, but let's try to do something. And so somebody has to come up with an idea that can be turned into a collab, and then synchronize yourself with the other person. I mean, I will reveal this. Some of you, I don't know if it's not like I'm not allowed, but I actually planned with Potato Almanac to have a collab last year, and we were brainstorming some ideas on what we can what we can collab. And unfortunately, during that time I have to move, so I was very busy. Potato got also busy with his university, and we just it didn't turned out to be anything, just because we both had to focus on our lives, on our own content, and come up with an idea for that could be turned into a collab. So yeah, but maybe in the future I would love to. And it's also the fact that I am personally a very introverted person, and I don't really talk with a lot of content creators. Just very brief interactions on Twitter or sometimes on Discord. I always have this feeling that I am bothering the people around me, so I hesitate to reach out to other people, because I know they're busy, so I don't want to bother them and be a hindrance. But yeah, maybe in the future. Okay, I will take a small bathroom break and do a few stretches, because I feel like my back starts hurting, and I will be back and answer some more questions in a bit. Alright, and I am back. Let me switch this with the game since we are done with the tier list. Oh my, another bot. Okay, so we got rid of the bot. Let me know if the audio it's okay, if everything is right. Mods wield the bar hammer. Yeah, about that. Another thing is I don't have any mods. It's just me for now. I don't know. I'll see if I can find one for the future to help with this kind of stuff. Just that it's hard to find someone who you trust, right? For to give them access to your stream to mod. Audio is okay? Awesome. Kevin is probably the most tragic character in the game to me. I mean, yes, his fate was pretty tragic. I mean, he was embodiment of the tragic Greek hero. If you look into his character, that's one of his inspirations. I will talk more about Kevin since I already have a video planned about him. But he basically is a character. His story is written to be a character inside a tragedy. But in the end, I would say that he got what he wanted. So I think that for him, from his perspective, this was the best possible ending for him that he could have imagined, because he really didn't. He wished for the main cast to surpass him and to stop him. But if you look at his attitude throughout the whole arc, he really didn't believe that they will be able to do so. He wished for it, but he didn't believe that they will be able to do that. So yeah, basically they granted his wish. We need manga or anime about previous era and flame chasers, about how much they sacrifice, how they fight for the dying world, for humanity till the very end. Yeah, I would like to revisit the flame chasers. Unfortunately, I don't think that we will have more mangas, since I think late 2020, early 2021, they dissolved the manga department at Hoyoverse and they stopped making manga. Alien Space was the last one. And I think it's for the best, because they decided to try to keep the lore in the game and not force people to go and search for extra materials. And while yes, manga can help a lot, because it's a whole different medium from the game, and it can help build the world, make the world building a lot better, and shape up some stuff. In the end, I don't think it's worth it. It's okay. It's better for them to keep everything in the game. Because I will be honest, most of Honkai's world building comes from the manga, not the game itself. The game gives you very little information about how this world actually works and how people are living their lives. Homolab, so if Kevin didn't activate Project Stigma, the finality will appear and everything will be game over. If not for Project Stigma, a web seal everything. Yeah, basically, if Kevin didn't try to take over finality with Project Stigma, we would have another Herrscher of finality that is born from the cocoon, and that Herrscher would have resetted the Samsara again, and they would have failed. So yeah, that's what I would imagine too, that it would have happened based on their dialogue. Homolabs, any idea about your next video will be about? Okay, my next video will be a recap of chapter 35, and after that I'm done recapping the whole arc. It's something I really want to do because a lot of people didn't really understand everything that happens in this latest arc, and I want to have everything in an easy to find place for people who want to know the story better. And I'm hoping I will finish the video maybe next week, if I'm lucky and I have the time. And after that, I have a video planned on Kevin. I have a video planned on all the meta discourse with iLambda inside Honkai Impact 3rd. I have a full review of the entire story of Honkai Impact 3rd planned. I have this video about explaining the entirety of Hoyoverse, which it's still in the working and it will take some months until it comes out. And I also want to start making some lore videos for Star Rail. So yeah, I have a lot of video ideas. I just need to find the time to make them. I wonder if when Elysian Realm began, MiHoYo expected us to love the Flame Chaser as much as we eventually did. I don't think so. I think that the Elysian Realm went beyond their expectations. You should, if you didn't, you should check out the documentary. From my understanding, it's already out on the main channel. And they talk a lot about their philosophy when they made Elysian Realm and the story and what were their thoughts. I'm excited for part 2 because we won't have this problem of missing lore from other mediums, and they will have a clear direction for the story since the beginning. Yes, I agree. That's also why I am also excited for part 2, because at this point Honkai is an established game. They know what they can do, they have ambitions, they know how to tackle the story and what mistakes not to repeat. And I also think that part 2 will be much better than part 1. And I'm also basing this on GGZ, right? Because I talked with some people that play it, and most of them, if not all of them, agree that part 2, which is Reborn, is a lot better than Retrospect, which is part 1. And it really elevated the story to new heights. So yeah, I'm hopeful that it will happen. The same in Honkai Impact 3rd. Homo Labs, I wouldn't mind if you make a 20 to 40 minutes video. Yeah, you know, the issue is that it takes time. Because I'm so thorough with my creative process that it's the best I can do is a video maybe once 2 weeks. Because the research takes me a lot. Sometimes for some videos I even research a couple of days, then writing the script, organizing the information. I usually have 3 or 4 drafts for a script, then I have to record. After I record, I have to edit the sound to make it sound okay, because sound is very important. After that, I start the editing, and that also takes usually about a week and a half, sometimes even 2. And after the editing, you have to come up with a title and a thumbnail, and those are very, very important, because you can make the best video in the world. If you mess up the title and the thumbnail, all your work was for nothing. And I usually also spend a whole day thinking about how to make a good thumbnail and a good title for the video. So it's a lot of work. And besides that, I try to balance my real job and my life. So yeah. Who is the true final Hersher? The Hersher of finality or Hersher of the end? They're both the same. It's just that they changed the translation. Initially they translated it as the Hersher of the end, and later it was changed by the Hersher of finality. But it's the same entity basically. I hope part 2 feels like a new journey. I hope it feels very new, like with a lot of new characters and better paced stories. Oh, we'll have to see. What do you think about my theory that the entity that talked to Sue is a mysterious being like the players? I mean, it could be. We are confirmed as of this arc 11th dimensional beings in the Honkai universe. We are observers in the same way that Eons are observers in Star Rail. And yes, I'm not kidding, I'm not trolling, this is true. We are canonically at the same level as Eons. We observe the stories, we cannot interact directly with them, and we can influence them and give them power. which we did in the last chapter. So, by all means, I don't think that it's necessary a player avatar, but it's something of sorts, something like a 11th dimensional being, another observer. Any plans on streaming future story chapters? Okay, this is a bit complicated for me. I don't want to stream myself playing the game, at least playing through the story of the game, at least not for now, and there are multiple reasons for this. One, I'm still not very comfortable streaming. I'm still learning, that's why I want to do these lore discussion streams, to familiarize myself with the process and how to talk with chat and focus my attentions in both parts. The thing is, Honkai story means so much to me, and I like to experience in a way that I don't think I want to share it with anybody. Usually I like to make a cup of coffee and experience the story by myself, read the same dialogue a couple of times, take a lot of notes, and I also think it's a boring experience from a viewer perspective, and I don't want to bore you guys. And second, it's an experience that means a lot to me, and for now I don't want to share it with anybody. I don't know if it makes sense, but maybe in the future, after I get more comfortable streaming. And I plan to stream Star Rail's story, and that is because I've already done it. So I already know everything that will happen because I played through the beta, so it will not be a reactionary story for me. So I can stream it from the perspective of a lore streamer, and while playing through it, try to experience it with you and talk about with you guys, and maybe help you understand it better, or vice versa. Maybe you will be able to offer me a new perspective that I haven't had until this point. And yeah, that's an experience I'm willing and I want to share with you. But for the moment, Honkai Impact 3rd, I will be playing the story by myself. But never say never, maybe in the future. I watched the Honkai Carnival, and Brune introduced herself as Archangel and Mei as Cherub, and we already know that Kiana is the true god. So the question arises, if Otto and Kevin are not Hershers, they called false god, then why Brune and Mei are angels? I don't think that you should read too much into that. Especially since that is what the video in the carnival is, a fan-made video. It's not made by Hoyoverse themselves, it's not official, so I wouldn't try to read too much into what happens there, because it's probably fan-made. I love your video so much, it's fun to eat and listen to your voice. Thank you. I'm glad that some people find my voice and my accent pleasant to listen to, because one of the main things that kept me from streaming for so long was the fact that I think that my accent is not really... I always have this fear that my accent is not really enjoyable for people to listen. And second is, I'm not really used to talking in English, because English is not my first language, it's not even my second, it's my third language, and it's a language that I have very little experience speaking in, because I don't use it in my real life. I very rarely speak in English, so I always have this fear that I will sound like a drunk Eastern European and people will be put off by it, but I'm glad to see that that's not the case. Wasn't Hersher of the End only its name in GGZ? I thought Honkai Impact always called it Final Hersher. Yes, Honkai Impact 3rd, I think in some of the manga it also called it Hersher of the End, but for most part, yes, it's the naming from GGZ. What do you do as your job, if you don't mind asking? I feel free to ignore this if I'm private. There's not much to hide. I work in IT. in I'm a junior analyst. It's a boring job. It's not something that it's worth talking about. Understandable, totally get you. Are you going to talk about Honkai Star Rail, the new game, in the next month? Yes, I already have 2 videos planned on Honkai Star Rail. And I also want to do some Honkai Star Rail streams in the future where we talk about the lore, in the same way we do now with Honkai Impact, but for Honkai Star Rail. It takes quite the focus to experience Honkai stories. Some streamers, creators... Yeah, it's a lot of focus, and it takes a lot out of you. I don't know how some people can manage to do both. I honestly admire those streamers that can pay close attention to the story and also talk with the people in the chat and keep them entertained. From your accent, are you European? Yes, I'm from Romania, in Eastern Europe. What's your first language? Well, as I said, my first language is Romanian. My second language is Hungarian, since I mixed between both, and English is my third language. I'm not a native English speaker, too, so I kind of understand you, but hey, it's fun to talk to you, to be honest. Thank you. You sound really good. You can be a commentary channel. Bye, Nenkam. You speak 3 languages. Whoa, that's cool. I mean, is it that rare to speak 3 languages? I don't know. I grew up with 2, and English I picked up on the go as I grew up. So yeah, I got a question. How do you remember stuff from really late chapters? Do you keep notes? I would never be able to remember all the Honkai info. Yes, I also keep notes. There's also that I dedicated so much time to this lore, and I revisited so much of the early chapters and all the external materials that some information just stuck with me. But I'm far from knowing everything. Usually I do a ton of research before writing the script for a video, right? And a lot of information after that doesn't stay in my brain, just goes out. And it happens a lot to have people commenting on my older videos about some stuff I talk about in the video about the lore, and I'm like, what are they talking about? Did I said that? It happened like that, and I'm human, you know. I forget, and that's why when I want to talk about a topic, I usually go back and research it and take some notes to remember them. And some parts naturally just stuck with my brain. So yeah, I think you should do the ASMR Honkai lore. I mean, that's not a bad idea. Maybe one day. Would you do Genshin Impact content? I would love to. Unfortunately, I don't know if I will be able to, because I want to focus on the Honkai series as my primary content, because Genshin already has so many lore content creators that are so good, that in my opinion are a lot better than anything I can offer you from Genshin's side of things. But there are so few in the Honkai community that I think that my efforts will bear a lot more fruit and will help a lot more people here. That's not to say that I don't plan to ever do any Genshin videos, but for now I don't have anything planned for the near future. I have a video idea that I wanted to make since a long time ago. Maybe I will be able to do it this year, maybe not. I can't promise you anything. Have you gotten the Honkai art book yet? Not yet. I got the tracking info, and apparently it arrived in my country, but it's still not here. And I'm hoping it will arrive sometimes next week. I wonder how Star Rail Genshin Star Rail's Genshin-like way of storytelling will impact the story. Personally, I prefer the way Honkai tells its story much more than Genshin. I feel like Genshin dialogues are way too bloated and wordy to even through Honkai has much more text. It feels much more meaningful than Genshin. Yeah, I can see that, but for my experience playing the beta, I would say that Star Rail is not very different from Genshin, but there are some differences. And I honestly prefer Star Rail's way of telling the story over Genshin a bit. Also, it helps that in Star Rail there's no Paimon. And that automatically makes the experience better. But yeah, I think it's too early to say. We'll have to wait and see. I would love you to stay in the Honkai lores because there's not many Honkai lore CCs. I mean, it's not a competition per se. I want to make videos about what I feel like, and at the moment I want to make videos about Honkai. But yeah, as I said, there are already so many Genshin creators in the lore side of the things that I feel like my work is a lot more meaningful here. Even if I would probably get, to be honest, I would probably get a lot more views if I did Genshin content. I can already see that I most likely would have doubled the number of views or subscriber by this point. But that's not why I do this. I do this because I'm genuinely passionate about this story, and I want to share it with you and help people understand, because I know that it's a very complicated story and many people do not fully understand it. And I was the same, because I started making content because I myself was searching for people for lore videos on Honkai on YouTube, and I couldn't find any, and I was like, okay, you know what? If nobody does it, I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna go home, Labs. Thanks for the stream. Really happy to know that you will be covering a lot of Honkai content. Thank you. Bye bye, Golfy. Take care. The fact that you are not sure that wealth and Tesla merit proves that you have a normal human like everybody, not a Honkai lore god. I don't think that if somebody comes and tells you that they know everything about Honkai lore, they are lying. Either to you, either to themselves. Because it's so much information, you can't possibly know everything. And as I said, a lot of information I note down for a specific video. After 2 or 3 months, a lot of those informations are gone. Like, I don't know, Mobius's video. If you remember, I made last year a video about Mobius, and I talked a lot about her remembrance vessels and such. I'm honest with you, I think that 80% of the information in that video is already out of my mind. I don't know jack. I don't know anything about Mobius. If I would make a video right now that would involve Mobius, I would most likely go back and reread everything, because that's how it works. Star Rail's humor is so good, yeah. Yeah, I really like the humor in Star Rail. I really love your content. Thank you very much, Soaps, for the donation. I really appreciate it. Did Star Rail have a history tab so you can see the previous dialogue like in Honkai? No. From what I remember from the beta, no. It has, unlike Genshin, I think you can hide the text, but I don't think there's history tab. Also, who are you saving for? Right now, I think that I will go for Elysia's skin and maybe Susanna's weapon. I don't think I will go for her stigma. since I saw some really cheap builds that work almost as good as her signature gear. So yeah, hopefully her weapon and Alicia skin. What is your favorite Honkai song? That's a tough question, but if I have to choose, I would say Regression. Yeah, Regression. That song really hits hard for me. Mobius and Vilvis lore is so in-depth. Yeah, I agree. If you think you understand quantum mechanics, you don't understand quantum mechanics. I mean, that's the basis of quantum mechanics, if you look into it. It's the premise is that we don't understand anything. And that's from where you start going. Did you know Honkai Star Rail is going to be on PlayStation? Yeah, I know. I saw the developer live stream. And that's good to see, because a lot more people can get into the game that way. Only if they would port Honkai Impact on the PlayStation as well someday. Maybe after they update the game engine. But again, as someone who works in as junior analyst, I know how hard is the process of getting a game on the PlayStation or any console for that matter. You have so many compliance tests that you have to pass, and usually Sony is very strict with them. So it's a hassle to do console ports, and any developers who work with that will tell you the same. Can wait for the end of the month to see what our first test rank of Arc 2 will be. I mean, it's not really Arc 2, it's part 2, it's part 1.5. But yeah, I'm also excited. I think this Friday will be the reveal of the new Valconcian. Homo, did you make your own avatar that you use in your videos because it looks good? I mean, I didn't make it personally, it was made by a friend of mine. He drew it for me. Do you think part 2 will be coming with the new engine? Yes, I think that part 2 will be coming with the updated graphics. I'm curious, are you an endgame player, Super String Dimension, Memorial Arena and ER? Yes. I love playing Abyss. And in Abyss I usually oscillate. Let me show you. Right now I'm in Red Lotus. I usually oscillate between Red Lotus and Nirvana. I can retain Nirvana very, very rarely, but I can return Red Lotus every time without much sweat. But usually when I go in Nirvana, I stay there for a cycle and go down. I think I return Nirvana only 2 times, if I'm not mistaken. But yeah, I still have to do my Abyss for the day. I don't like Memorial Arena. I usually do it just for the rewards and that's it. And ER, it depends. I do it every week for the rewards, but sometimes I only do on abstinence, like this week because I was busy to get the rewards. In the weeks that I like to challenge myself, I do finality. But yeah, that's it. Who do you think will be the new MC for the next part of Honkai Story, Homo Labs? Will there be our current cast or who introduces a new one? I don't really know. It can be anything at this point. But I know that somebody earlier in the stream mentioned Q-Show from GGZ. I would really like for her to be, if they would bring her from GGZ to Honkai Impact 3rd, and for her to be the new MC of part 2. I'm just waiting for Fu Hua's Garuda Mantis form. That costume was fire, pun intended. Yeah, the problem is I don't see how they will bring her into the story, because part 1.5, from what we see, is all about Cell. So how do you bring Fu Hua into all of this? But yeah, maybe in the future. I also hope, and I don't think that they only tease that costume, that new form, for it to be in that part of the story and never to be seen again. I really think that we will get a new Fuhua with Garuda form, a new Sele, which will be the form that I Lambda saw in the future, and I also think we will get an adult Teresa. But I think that adult Teresa will be more so in APHO3 than anything. Do you expect new combat mechanics in part 2? I would expect maybe more aerial combat and maybe a system that it's like, I forgot how it's called, but it's like the QTE combo that is specific with Finality, Origin and Truth. Like you can change him, very reminiscent of ZZZ. I can see them making more better suit with that kind of synergy. Red Lotus is the sweet spot. Yeah, I don't want to say it because I don't want to boast. I don't want to be that well guy, but I honestly feel that like Red Lotus is a little bit too easy. It's not really challenging, but I also feel like Nirvana is too hard. So I would love, I don't know, we need another bracket between those two. When do you think Kiana will come back? I think she will come back in APHO3. Yeah, I think that she will come back. Because if you look at this, each part of APHO focused on one of the main trio, right? APHO1 was about Mei, APHO2 was about Bronya. So I'm hoping that APHO3 will be about Kiana. Is Honkai in GGZ and Honkai Impact 3rd has the same origin or not? No. They are similar in concept, but they are very different. The Wheel of Honkai in GGZ, it's a real entity, and it's a real asshole that does a lot of messed up things. So they are not quite the same, but they have some similarities. Hua doesn't even make Kevin a tombstone in the final part of the knowing each other more than 50,000 years, that just so heartless. I mean, we weren't shown that she made him a tombstone. Maybe we will see that later. I don't know. Nirvana is for hardcore than well territory players. Yeah, usually when I'm in Nirvana and I look at the top scores, they are all with... and it's not even that they have perfect teams, because I also have them almost all the Valkyries except for Vilvi and almost all the gear. But on top of that, the top scorers in Nirvana also have the Valkyrie at double S rank, at triple S rank sometimes, and that's a level of welling I'm not willing to do. Homolabs, what are your top 3 battlesuits designs? That's a hard question. Let me think. Top 3. If we go by design only, how they look. Silverwing. Silverwing, Sushang, and I would say Flame Scion, but the default one. These are top 3. Thank you for subscribing, Sabrina. APHO2 makes sense for her to come back, yeah. Game is harder because every new boss is aimed purely for one team, and if you don't have full gear on them, good luck. Like, even every ice... Yes, I know. I can feel the pain. I know, especially when I when I when I am in Nirvana and there's a weather when I don't have the full team that's suffering. In Red Lotus, you can easily clear without having the proper team, the intended team. But in Nirvana, no chance. Absolutely no chance. If the Sky People feed on Honkai energy, Kiana on the moon would be a huge target for them. Well, basically, Kiana on the moon is their target because that's where the Honkai energy is. So yeah, I can see how she won't be involved. If nothing happened to her and she's still on the moon, which most likely is from what we saw from Mei and Bronya, always looking up to the moon, I don't see how she won't be involved in APHO3. Herrscher of Human is my top spot. Nice. Yeah, Vodka Twins, and I don't know if they will add Sin Mao. It would be nice, but I really think that we will see new battle suits in APHO for the Vodka Twins. I'm in Red Lotus right now and it's bit wetter and I can't do anything. Yeah. I mean, for bleed weather you specifically kinda need Grisio, otherwise you can't do much. Grisio and preferably her weapon. You just accept fate and demote back to Red Lotus. Yes, that's all you can do. But aren't Sky People cowards who do not target the strong one, considering that Kiana holds the complete authority of finality and all? I mean, it was mentioned that Sky People don't really attack civilizations that they think that they are stronger than them. So this can mean two things. One, they think that they are stronger than the current civilization. Or two, maybe something happened to Kiana and she cannot use her full power, right? But yeah, it was mentioned that they usually stay away. And I'm not sure about this, but from how I remember in Alien Space, it was even said that they are afraid of Herschers. But I guess we'll have to wait and see. Meanwhile, Misty in Agony 3. I mean, I was also in Agony 3 for a lot of times, because after you break through, it takes a lot of time to build up your weapons. Because the most important thing for getting from Agony 3 to Red Lotus, in my opinion, is getting your pre-arms at level 65. That makes a very big difference. And I remember that only after I had a couple of weapons pre-armed at 65, so that I could tackle some weathers and have a good score, only after that I managed to get to Red Lotus. Yeah, lift our weapon. Homo Labs, yeah, they don't even attack previous era, and when Kevin on Earth, it means that Kiana is somewhere, probably not on the moon. Remember, May said Kiana is somewhere we can't reach at the moment. Yes, but again, we have to see how much stuff was retconned, but because maybe she said that in an earlier version when they didn't really know how Kiana will end up on the moon, so they didn't have any details. But we'll have to see. Because I think that something happened in these 8 years and maybe Kiana encountered some problems. What happened to the Hershop corruption from the previous era trapped in the black box now that Kiana is the Hershop finality? Has it disappeared? We don't really know. We don't really know what happens to the divine keys after Honkai is no more. Will they still function? Are they just empty husk of metal right now? We don't have any information. Actually we have, because we saw Void Archives using the Oath of Judah in APH02, right? So the Divine Keys should still work as normal. Because she used the real Oath of Judah, not a copied one, if I remember correctly. I may be wrong on this. Really need to go through APH02 again. Yeah. But I think I will end it here for today. Thank you guys very much for joining. I really appreciate it. You guys were awesome. I enjoyed talking. And slowly but surely I feel like I start to get more and more used to streaming. Now, plans for the future. I will be not streaming next week because I want to dedicate the next weekend to make videos and do more content. But I will stream the week next after, and the next stream, the next Honkai lore discussion will most likely focus on what part 2 can entail and theorizing about the future of the game and APH02. But in the meantime, this is not a promise, this might happen. You might see me live on Twitch. Streaming the game casually. By casually I mean doing the Abyss, maybe ER, just playing the game, not necessarily for a lore talk discussion stream, because I want to keep the lore talk confined to YouTube, and also stream on Twitch to get used to streaming, but do it in a more relaxed manner where I just play the game and have fun. Of course we can still talk about the game and the lore, but it will be in a much more relaxed environment, and do some actually playing the game, right? Because right now I don't really play the game, I just keep it in the background. And do Abyss, do some ER, maybe even do some Genshin, and talk about the lore. And that will probably be at a later hour, and I'm not sure when, but I will announce it on Twitter. So that's it for now. Again, thank you very much for joining me, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye bye.